So I sat here for a really long time trying to figure out what I wanted to do in terms of setting up this team. Fortunately, I had a headache and decided, let me lay down for a minute, and fell asleep. Thus, this video was not up yesterday, and now it's up today, in which I still don't know what the hell I want to do with this lineup. Now, the easy decision is what to do with Brock Boeser, which some people agreed with the move. Some people disagree with it. Some people saying, well, why would you sign him if you're just going to trade him? Although I can't help but think a lot of those people, had I missed on him, would have been the same type to be like, but you didn't sign Johnny Gaudreau a couple off seasons ago. So mixed signals there. To re-sign Brock Boeser, it makes all the sense in the world. Either we gave him a second chance or we flip him and get something out of him, considering, again, we have been extremely unlucky for the most part with getting prospects to either develop or having prospects in the first place. I mean, aside from the odd rarity of guys like Sanderson, who are top 6, very few medium elites outside of the shocker and Xavier Eddy, who was magically medium elite. I thought he was a medium top 6 or low elite lock, let alone medium elite. Point being, we can use Brock Boeser to either get some extra draft picks. We can use Brock Boeser to perhaps get the one player that's eluded us in terms of high-end talent. That, of course, being Clayton Keller. Now, as far as this team goes, obviously I've really drifted more towards building up prospects and not using the already established names, the Jack Eichels, the Austin Matthews, but we do have a need in the top 6, and there's not exactly anybody on this team right now that's going to step up and take that spot. We want Ryan Poehling as our third-line center so that we can at least, spread the wealth a little bit. To have Hughes and Middlestad on the same line might not be worth it. Maybe it is. Point being, we have Adrian Redmond now in the top 6. We need one other person. Is Frederick the guy? No. Is Parks the guy right now? No. Poehling? No. We do have a need. And we have a little bit of depth to begin with. Joel Farabee is currently a healthy scratch, and defensively, Max Gilden is a scratch thanks to one Cody Pitt being ready to be on this team. So you can see my dilemma, and why I sat here for a lot longer than I should have trying to figure out exactly what I want to do. To be honest, again, I still don't know. I don't know if Joel Farabee is going to be the one to sit. I might end up, and will more than likely end up, pausing this video at one point after the eventual Boeser trade, which that is the game plan here, is to more than likely see if we can afford to get Clayton Keller. If we can, cool. If not, we make a trade for draft picks. We're going to wait until the end of the preseason, though, to make this move. The one downside is that basically nobody on this team right now can be sent down without going through waivers, so we pretty much have to make sure that we add one player to the deal. Of course, injuries aren't on in this series, unlike the Ottawa series, so we don't have to worry about having that extra bit of depth. Go figure, we've had a dynamite preseason so far. Doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot. Ask the Colorado Avalanche of 2 years ago, of course. But I don't know who we're going to look to move here alongside Brock Boeser. That should reset the schedule, and indeed it does. Let's take a look. Clayton Keller, like I mentioned, is that one guy who it makes sense to get. We have a ton of defensive prospects. Goaltending-wise, we're basically set for the future. If it turns out that Timmins isn't the guy, Ben DeHaan is now in the system, so we'll see what happens from there. Defensively, as mentioned, I mean, my God, I think we should be fine, hopefully. You'd like to think that we're going to be okay and survive that, even if someone like Olsen and Blunden aren't looking tremendous right now, admittedly. It's in the forward core that we need a little bit of help, because obviously Cairns and Eddy aren't exactly close. Factor in Redmond, Middlestat, Tkachuk, and Hughes. We need somebody else if we're getting rid of Boeser. So let's see what we can do, maybe. Now, he is still, that being Keller, he is still on the Philadelphia Flyers. The problem is he has that full trade bar value. Or that, it's just, trade value bar, I should say. I don't think it's possible. I really don't. You just have to factor in what else we're going to have to give up here. It's not going to happen. So, at the very least, what I think I'm going to do is hold Brock Boeser hostage. Now, some people might just say, use him. Nah, this is our this is going to be our revenge for him underperforming to such a ridiculous extent. I think we're going to hold him hostage. Maybe. Well, you know, it might be smarter to just use him. It might be. It might be. Problem is, if we do... well... Oh, that's a tough one. I think it'd be Rintoul that would also sit. We'd play Yandel and Kaliev on the fourth line. Probably with Greenway. Or Parks. I'd want to give Parks a better chance. If I were to go best lines, I already know that I want Tkachuk, Hughes, Boeser. Who would we want with Mittelstadt and Wahlstrom? Probably, could give Frederick the chance. Greenway, Paling, Parks, Yandel, Redmond. Again, no, that's right, I'd want Redmond in a better spot. So we'd bump up Redmond. Frederick, Paling, Parks, Yandel, Greenway, Rintoul. How good's Yandel at center? It's not terrible. You know, that might work. Otherwise, it's Parks at center, which I'm not against. You know, we'll give Parks the chance. I think the reason I want to do it this way is that at the very least, we can see whether or not certain players are underperforming. If they are, we have Gilden good to go, we have Farabee, and we have Kaliev. Not the biggest fan of scratching Kaliev from the onset, but I want to see how this team does as it is. Because otherwise, right now, it's just, okay, who do I think is going to be terrible? And then I trade Brock Boeser to that Western Conference team, because I'm certainly not going to trade him within the East. And then I have to hope that they're terrible. I'm at least going to make sure that I get something out of this. Again, injuries aren't on, so it's not like I'm taking that big of a risk by playing him. We'll see what's up as we move through the season. So let's do it, actually. Let's keep this team the same. I'm not going to pause. I'm not going to change any player types, at least at the moment. We'll see how we do. Now, there's a chance, I suppose, that Boeser wins back some favor if he finally plays like the player we all thought he could have been back in the day. Odds are that that's not going to be the case, and he's still going to be moved, but you never know. Could happen. Let's go defense for 6 weeks as well, and of course then from there we'll scout out the junior leagues. Multiple 8-goal games already this season, by the way. I'd make that a third. Jesus. So offensively, we're proving to be slightly inconsistent, but we are proving to have quite a bit of firepower, which is quite nice. Let's sim to the end of November. Maybe that'll be early enough to see if one team is really that bad. And if we find out Brock Boeser's not doing that well anyway, then all the more reason to get rid of him and make room for someone like Kaliev to actually be in the lineup. But right now, things are going relatively well for us. Knock on wood. That could easily change. Oh, boy. So initially, while the joke was there about... No, it wasn't a joke, but initially, well, you know, the option was there to sign Boeser, only to flip him. With this team doing this well, I can't help but think that he's having himself a tremendous season. That's really one of the few things that makes sense as far as how we are doing this well. Now, of course, we've seen this team do very well in the past and then completely fall apart and not make the playoffs. So, you know, you take this success right now with a grain of salt. It's December. Anything can happen. I do want to sim to January 1st, though. Let's just breeze through this. Obviously, we're going to be simming the entire season in this episode. There's not really that much controversy here. It's either we do well and we contemplate keeping Boeser, or we don't, we move him, and that's that. Same thing as last year. If we make the playoffs, cool. If we don't, whatever. It was another year of progression. At the very least, nobody major is taking a seat for Boeser to be here. You know, someone like a Max Gilden, he isn't going to play anyway, unless someone like Cody Pitt is just, you know, absolutely terrible. Apparently I already scouted the WHL ones. That doesn't sound right. I don't believe I did. Offensively, Kaliev's 24. Odds are he's not going to get that much better. Maybe a point or two. So we're not missing out on much. And that's really it. Boeser's not really taking a spot from anybody who overwhelmingly deserves to be in the lineup. And as of January 1st, 2026, we have a 27-7-6 record. Are we in first? Yes, we are. Now, Oliver Wahlstrom's our leading point getter, 35 points in 40 games with 18 goals. Let's take a look here. So Brady Tkachuk has 25 points, again, in 40 games. So, Definitely better as a second-line guy. Jack Hughes has 34 points. Boeser, 32 with 16 goals. Now, I believe his career high with us, I mean, again, his career high in general is 39 from the real-world season, and he's only broken 30 once, but he's on pace to break 30 for the first time in a long time. So maybe he has earned that spot. Now, Redmond's not exactly performing to the level I was hoping that he would. Only 11 assists. Middlestat and Wallstrom are killing it together. Frederick's doing okay. Paling's still killing it. And again, we know Paling is capable of putting up points. And then Greenway, oh my god. Greenway, Rintoul, and Yandel are doing very well. So while there's an argument to maybe bumping up Greenway or Parks in favor of Redmond, this team is gelling the way it is right now, so why bother? Defensively, top two are killing it. Ernie only has 5 points, but he's a plus 17. Ernie and Reimer are killing it, so that's good. Obviously, we had some concerns about Ernie heading into this past season. Quinn Hughes with 18 points, 3 points for Cody Pitts. Goaltending, Timmins is having a Vezina caliber season as well. So we're getting a lot of offense and Vezina caliber goaltending. Let's keep moving on, shall we? There's really no decision to be made there. From the looks of it, I would assume that we are currently the best team in hockey, which is crazy to think about, really. Let's go ahead and sim to February 1st. We start off the month of January with a 5-2 win over Dallas. Of course, we're going to have to handle the scouting a little bit more frequently, but that's okay. Let's go defense for 2 weeks as well. I should probably be going 3 weeks, but that's all right. Yeah, I should be going 3 weeks. We'll just scout over it again. It's fine. We're up to 31 wins. Cleveland, by the way, having themselves a pretty strong season as well. Again, maybe I'm a little bit too concerned about the success of our AHL club at times, but it is nice, of course. The AHL team's doing well. It means you have good prospects coming up. So, it's worth paying attention to. At least that's my argument. As we beat the Vegas Golden Knights 7-3, we lose 1-0 to the Arizona Coyotes. Almost called them Phoenix, and that's due to the ridiculous amount of flashback hockey I've been playing on stream lately. So if I make that mistake, don't kill me for it, really. February 1st, 34-11-6. The Monsters at 32-17-3. Both clubs doing tremendously well. We're 5 points clear of the Islanders with a game at hand. Jack Hughes is our leading scorer. Let's go to just before the trade deadline, shall we? There's not much else to consider. Also, that's a very early deadline. 27th? That's a very early deadline. That's weird. Let's go ahead and set up the scouting again. We already did the goaltending, correct? So let's go... we'll stick to 2 weeks. We'll stick to 2 weeks and then come back if we have to. So we start off the month with a shootout loss. But again, if we're going to lose, I'd rather have it be in a shootout. Back-to-back games. Galvis, you are not American, so no thank you. Yikes, we dropped 3 in a row to begin the month. And see, this is why I didn't want to be dead set on a decision. We have been prone to February and March collapses throughout the course of NHL 18 in numerous different series. So why take the risk and say, yes, this is our team? No, we're going to wait until the deadline. If we continue to slip, that might force our hand into a decision. If not, then it is what it is. Now, the one downside here is that you could argue, well, maybe you would have gotten a high-end draft pick if you were a bit worse this year and didn't have Brock Boeser. That's true. Maybe we end up using Brock Boeser to get that deal done. He's signed for 3 years. We could move him at the draft. We could be that cheap about it and wait to move him at the draft. He doesn't have to be moved this season. So, let's take a look here at everything. Hughes, as the Islanders have passed us, by the way, so they're having an even better season, obviously, but just hard to think that they are. 50 points in 62 games for Jack Hughes. Let's take a look at everything here. So, Brady Tkachuk has 11 goals and 29 assists, good for 40 points. He will, barring a miracle, top his point total from last season. Weird to me that he puts up, well, maybe not weird to me that he puts up more points as a playmaker. The deking and hand-eye are a bit low, but obviously the passing and puck control are up there. As a playmaker, sniper, power forward, two-way, you could argue any of the player types for him. Jack Hughes is a sniper. Again, you could argue playmaker for him, but 18 goals, 32 assists. Now 24 goals for Brock Boeser. Is that enough to win back some favor amongst the Blue Jackets fan base. Don't know if it is, especially when we remember some of these postseason runs. But it's been an interesting season for him so far. Redmond still without his first career goal, but 18 assists and a plus 13. Middlestat killing it, 47 points and 48 points for Oliver Wahlstrom. So Wahlstrom continues to be what we hoped for Boeser to be. Although I don't know if Wahlstrom's going to hit 60 points again. It would be nice. Frederick on the third line, not as good. Ryan Paling's been great. Rodney Parks has been just okay. And then Greenway's been great on the fourth line with Yandel and Rintoul. Rintoul has really high offensive awareness. The rest of the stats aren't quite there. But he's an interesting player. As to where, I am wondering, maybe bumping up Parks, or maybe swapping Parks and Redmond would be a half-decent way to go. I mean, you talk about Rintoul maybe getting bumped up. Parks has been okay. Again, there are certain changes we could look to make. And then defensively, that top pairing's great. Ernie, 7 points. 20 points now for Roger Reimer, which I'm good with. 24 points in total. And the 4 points for Pitt. He is a +9. Goaltender Timmins, still having an incredible year. John Gillies has just been, below average. Okay at best. Those aren't great numbers. It still made more sense for Gibson to be the guy down in the AHL, and both goaltenders are actually doing very well down in the AHL with Cleveland. So I'm good with that. Again, the argument of Farabee and Kaliev, how much is this affecting them? I don't have much faith in Kaliev to get better. It's just whether or not we trade Brock Boeser now, and whether or not we're getting the most out of it. Which, as I mentioned, we could just be really cheap about it and move him at the draft. I know that we have an extra first-round pick this year, and I want to take a look at that. And I also want to go back to the Flyers and maybe discuss some things. So our pick isn't worth much. San Jose is looking like it has an outside chance of being a lottery pick. Maybe with that value. Actually, it might be closer to a lottery pick. And, of course, we have some extra seconds. The Flyers are just an okay team. So you'd think, as a result, they might be looking to move Keller, who's going to be a UFA. Not quite. They're still going for it. They're looking to move guys like Hosang, Landeskog, Juleson, and Kuznetsov, which does not help us. Oh, boy. Well, I missed that part. Yeah, I missed that part. Damn. Okay, so he's not going anywhere. The only way Clayton Keller is going anywhere is if we give up a lot to get him. And as it is, there's no guarantee. I mean, he's on 50 points. He'll hit 60 again. Would it be worth giving up that much for Clayton Keller? I mean, we're talking Brock Boeser and multiple picks here. I don't know if it would be. The next question we need to answer, that we need an answer to, is whether or not there are any decent Americans in this draft. That will really dictate what I do here. You have Chow projected for the top 10, so no guarantees. Seems like he'd be more of a lock to be a medium 6. Maybe an outside chance at a medium elite, but no real indication there. Yeah, he might be medium elite, or he might be a high overall medium 6, judging by those attributes. We also have Julian Like, who we don't have as much information on, which is kind of garbage, but could also be half decent. And then from there, it really drops off. A goaltender, Jack Campagna, the Campagans, the Champagne, who might be medium elite, but it's not going to be the best overall. Burrows, we know not much about. So it's really not that one guy. That kind of makes it worth it, but I guess in a way, worth it is in trading those picks. Second round, it really falls off. You have Cam Beats, the center. Is that it? Okay, so a couple of guys. Wagner, Farmer. Okay. I'd say it's probably worth keeping our picks then in this draft. Maybe if we miss out on someone, we use Boeser. So I'm going to keep the picks, which means Clayton Keller's out of the question. Now it's just a matter of lineup-wise, what do we look to do? Do we keep Brock Boeser at this point? Which, honestly, we might as well. I mean, we've been good enough this season that it's not really Not really worth it to move him now and make us weaker heading into the playoffs. I don't have much faith in him come playoff time. Obviously, the concerns are there. Ernie and Reimer have slipped a little bit. Just a little bit. In terms of plus minus. I'm going to try that. We've been slipping a little bit. I might try a little bit of a shake-up. So again, Rintoul, solid with 22 points. Yandel's just been okay. Greenway's been alright. Parks has been okay. Frederick, I just wonder, though, if it's Greenway and Rintoul will magically work really well together. I don't necessarily want to drop Frederick down to the fourth line, but Greenway's been better. So, Parks again, 23 points. You know, I said I wanted to try a shake-up, and I'm going to. I know Parks plays center, right? He doesn't. Yes, he does. He's a 77. Actually, we can put Frederick at center. Greenway, Paling, Rintoul, Parks, Frederick, Yandel. Is that too much of a change-up, I think what I'm going to do, you know, Kachuk's been okay. I think ideally he'd be more of a second-line guy. I'm tempted to drop Redmond, but I don't know who I'd drop him for aside from Paling, which, again, it's more about the depth, and Paling still killing it. You could argue that Redmond might do all right there, but Paling just works really well on that third line. So I think I'm going to leave that as is. We'll make some slight changes to the defensive pairings in the bottom six just to try and create a little bit more of a spark. But for the most part, we're good to go. I'm going to move forward with it. Didn't think I'd keep Brock Boeser for this entire season, but that's looking like that's exactly what's going to happen. We're the third best team in the league. We are 2 points behind the Islanders and 5 points behind the Bruins, so the Bruins are having an amazing season, which is weird. They've been very inconsistent and up and down throughout the standings over the past, really throughout the entire course of this series. It hasn't even been the past few seasons. But with that said, let's move forward, shall we? Let's do this. Let's wrap up the season. There are no trades I really want to make. I don't think, at least, as we lose to the LA Kings. Was there anybody that I wanted to get rid of? Let me just double check. The decision to keep Brock Boeser for this season has been made. I guess it's just whether or not I want to get rid of a Kaliev or something like that, but I don't. I mean, worst case scenario is that, you know, we lose someone like a Farabee or a Kaliev for free. Like, Kaliev still has some decent value. That's a third round pick at best. Like, it really is. Maybe a very low-end second if I get lucky, knowing how the AI tends to trade. So we're good. We're good. Let's do this. Let's move forward. Let's see how the team does to wrap up the season. And the next episode will be a playoff episode, which is shocking to me, but it's just kind of how it worked out. And a very... I don't want to say... I can't think of the right terminology here. Just a really, what would I say, fly by the seat of your pants episode of just, you know, on the fly decision making based episode. I don't know. I had the right word in mind that really sums it up. Can't think of it now. Spontaneous, perhaps. We'll go with spontaneous. And, you know, to somewhat decent success, really. Of course, you know, we've slipped up a little bit throughout February and March. I mean, midway through March, 42, 19, and 10. Still not bad. We're going to go ahead and sim the next 2 weeks to April 1st. I'm not complaining about this record. Although it does feel familiar to be in this spot of, you know, we're heading towards the playoffs. Doing pretty well. What's going to happen once we get there? That's the similar question. Honestly, we're still losing some games. Freaking 3 straight 3-2 losses. 4 losses out of, 4 losses in a row. I was going to say 4 out of our last 5, and then I looked at Ottawa and Philly, and I'm like, oh, yikes. It's been worse than that. So as it's shaping up, I'd imagine we're looking at potentially being the 3 seed in the Metro, which isn't a death sentence, but it's not what it looked like it could have been. We only have 3 games left this month. 50 wins is out of the question, but 46, 23, and 10. Those 10 overtime losses are going to be quite helpful. Cleveland at 44, 27 and 8, also looking quite good and should be playoff bound. And we're actually in first. So the Islanders have slipped up a little bit. We are 3 points clear with 3 games to go on the New York Islanders. We are back in the postseason, and we have the second best, third best record. I mean, Vancouver and Boston are tied at 104 points. Vancouver's already played one more game. So it's not out of the question that the President's Trophy could be ours. It's also not out of the question that we could end up being the second seed in the Metro. But overall, very happy with what I've seen here. Now it's just a matter of what do we do against Pittsburgh, who are a playoff team. Not sure, of course, about the record we'll see on St. Louis and the Islanders. Oh my God. All right, so Pittsburgh, this is a huge game for us. Can we get the win, please? Yes, we can, 4-1. St. Louis on 45 wins. Jesus, it's a murderer's row in our final few games of the regular season. Where are we now? We have the division title. It's confirmed. The Islanders slipped up. The Metro goes to the Blue Jackets. An interesting turnaround. The addition of Redmond, his rookie year, the reacquisition of Brock Boeser, the return to form of Werenski and McAvoy, Reimer and Ernie getting it together, the addition of Cody Pitt, and of course the further development of Brent Timmins, who has turned into an elite goaltender in this league. We have the top record in the Metro. Boston on 106 points. The Canucks on 106 points. The Canucks have 1 game left, I do believe. 1 game left for Vancouver. 2 games left for Boston. They're 2 points ahead. So we'd have to win both games and hope that the Bruins slip up if we wanted the top seed in the East. We're playing the Blues. If it's a loss, we are out of the President's Trophy run, and there you go. But we still have the top record in the conference. This game against the Islanders is meaningless. Those overtime losses came up huge for us, and we end the season on a 2-1 win. Cleveland at 47, 27, and 8. They should also be postseason bound. And overall, this was a hell of a season for this organization. 48 wins, 106 points. We are not the top team in the East. We would have had the second best record in the East behind Boston. But third best in the league? Indeed. Boston on 108 points. We tied Vancouver with 106. And then, of course, the Islanders were there to round out the top 5. Goals for at a 2.87 average, which was third highest in the league behind St. Louis and Pittsburgh. Our goals against at a 2.15 was the 4th lowest in the league behind Nashville, Vancouver, and the LA Kings. Our power play at 18.1% was mid-table, if not a little bit closer to the bottom. Of course, our name is second from the bottom there, so the power play could be addressed. And the penalty kill at 86.9% was the top in the league. 23, 10, and 8 at home, 25, 14, and 2 on the road. Heading into the postseason on a 5-5 run. So not exactly ideal, but not terrible either. Cleveland finished second in their division. The Rockford Ice Hogs had one hell of a season. So they will be playing the Manitoba Moose in the first round. We will be playing the No, we'll not. We'll be playing the Washington Capitals. That's right, the Bruins beat us. So the Bruins will be playing the Rangers. We're playing the Washington Capitals, which, you know, make your memes now about the Blue Jackets playing the Capitals, and God forbid we go up 2-0 in that series. Wallstrom and Hughes were the only 2 players to break 60 points for us this season. Do I want to look? Nah, you know, I like looking from the edit lines menu as for the point totals as opposed to that. So let's take a look here, shall we? Again, Wallstrom and Hughes tied at 61 points apiece. Tkachuk finishes with 18 goals and 32 assists, so not bad. His first time breaking the 50-point mark since 2022-2023. So I will take that. That's at least closer to what he is capable of. Again, ideally, he'd be a second-line guy. Jack Hughes, 23 goals, 38 assists. He broke 60 points for the second consecutive season. We're now in consecutive seasons, and that's a new career high in points. And then Brock Boeser, in his return, hit 57 points and put up 25 goals. So the goal-scoring pace really died down the second half of the season. We talked about him maybe having an outside chance to hit 30. That did not happen. I don't think that's going to instill much confidence in you guys, a lot of whom did not want him back in the first place and didn't want him to be on this team throughout this season. So we'll be keeping a close eye on him. The key is we kept our depth. We still have Kaliev and Farabee who can step into this lineup, who would have been a part of the plan anyway had we never signed Boeser. So we're okay. You know, if it requires Wahlstrom stepping up to the top line, bumping up a Greenway or a Parks to the second line to cover Wahlstrom, I'm good with that. Redmond, in his rookie year, thankfully, the reverse Brandon Peary, thankfully picked up not only his first career NHL goal, but his second, finished with 28 points, so not the ideal player. He only took 25 shots all season. Not the ideal player to have on that second line. But, you know, he made it work. Middlestat, 27 goals and 31 assists, good for 58 points, so a much, much better season from him, which is what we needed. And, I mean, that's one of the major factors, too, as to why we didn't make the playoffs last year. We may have snuck in, but Casey Middlestat was terrible. Say what you want about the talent level around him. He was capable of more. And then Oliver Wahlstrom, back-to-back 33-goal seasons, finished with 61 points. He did break 60 again, so I'm quite happy with that. Jordan Greenway, bottom 6 all season, 15 goals and 21 assists. A great season for him, and a new career high in points as a result. So well done there. Ryan Poehling, 23 goals and 18 assists, breaks 40 points for the first time in his NHL career. A career season for him. Broke 20 goals for, in consecutive seasons, I should say. I was going to say for the second time in 2 seasons. It's like, just say consecutive seasons. Same thing. That's a new career high in goals for him as well. And then we're in Tool, 30 points. Not bad, up from the 22 he had as a rookie. And on the fourth line, Rodney Parks, you could argue, should not be on the fourth line. 32 points, up from the 25 he had last year as a rookie. Trent Frederick with 24 points, which was slightly disappointing. But overall, not bad for a bottom 6 edition. Look at the plus-minus on the fourth line. Yandel with 21 points. Not bad for his rookie season. So you could argue, just line combos. But overall, I feel good about the talent level that we have heading into the playoffs. It's just whether or not they actually perform. And of course, defensively, Zach Werenski, strong season, 38 points. Back up to a plus 25 as opposed to the last 2 seasons where it just wasn't good. McAvoy as well as a plus 27 with 48 points. Not a career high, but the highest point total he's had in over 5 years. So very happy with that. Quinn Hughes, 28 points. He was an even, so the point total's okay, though. Not bad. He's put up at least 28 points for the, consistently in the past 3 seasons. I don't know. The words are tough. Ever since I was trying to think of, sporadic, it ruined my mind. Reimer, 24 points, a new career high in his 3rd season. Finished as a plus 6. Cody Pitt, 4 points, but a plus 16 in his rookie year. Not bad. He was never a big point getter anyway. And Ernie, 9 points, a plus 16, a new career high in points, and went from a minus 16 to a plus 16. Probably the best season-on-season improvement in the league, I would have to imagine. And then Brent Timmins, Vezina caliber, 41 wins and 67 appearances, a .932 save percentage, and a sub-point... I was going to say sub-2... Words! A sub 2.0. And for some reason, I'm like, a sub 0.2, and it's like, that is not what happened at all. People would be testing him to even find out if he's a human, not even if he's on steroids. If you put up a 0.2, like, you're on steroids. You're not even on steroids. You're not even on horse steroids. You're a fucking alien. 7 shutouts is the point. It's a contract year for him, too. That's going to be fun. John Gillies was at least average. So I'm okay with that. He was just kind of the, fuck it, sign him kind of guy. Just to make sure, of course, that the AHL goaltending was set. Speaking of which, for the AHL point totals, some of these veterans that we signed, very, very capable of putting up points. Murray Altshuler didn't have the best season, nor did Shovel Dave. We also had some prospects mixed in there to see how they could do. Miejo, of course, is not. He's one of the guys who would have been bumped out of the lineup had we sent anybody down. Pellick had a much better season as well at the AHL level. So overall, what we can take away from this episode is that this franchise is still in a very good spot. The question as to what we do with Brock Boeser, that'll be answered in the future, as it won't be answered in the next episode. The next episode is, of course, a postseason episode. Let's get that confirmation that we are indeed playing the Washington Capitals in the next round. Am I hoping for any playoff success? Not really. Not really. It's nice that we're going to the playoffs. Not expecting much here, though. If we lose, it is what it is. I think the big thing is heading towards the draft and finding out for sure what we're doing with Brock Boeser, which, like I said, I'm intrigued to see. I imagine most people think the jury's out. It's up to this postseason. Some of you may have been convinced, maybe he's worth keeping at this point in time, unless he blows it in the playoffs. That's what it comes down to for me. He needs to prove that he can put up points in the playoffs. If he does, maybe he stays. If not, he gets flipped, we draft the best Americans possible, and he is used to help make that happen. So for now, that'll do it for this one. I know, abrupt, but we've done all we've come here to do. So thank you very much for watching. I look forward to your feedback, especially to, keeping Brock Boeser on this team and whether or not that was the right choice. It did lead us to winning the division title, though, of course. You know the deal. Every YouTuber says it. Even if they don't say it, they put an on-screen graphic. They allude to it. It's in the subtext. Read between the lines. Like, comment, subscribe, share, notification bell. Just do it. Memes. Dead memes from dead actors' careers. Which is a real shame, because I really like Shia LaBeouf. Even Stevens was an okay show. It was just an okay show. Maybe that's my mind remembering it that way. Maybe that's just the memory. I haven't seen an episode of that in God knows how long. And a lot of people are like, what the hell is that show? And in which case, Shia LaBeouf is an actor. Or was, at least. His career kind of died after that Indiana Jones movie. You know, the one with the nuke fridge? I never watched it because I'm like, no thank you. Not for me. But yeah, you might know him as a frequent viewing on TMZ in 2016 because he's a psychopath. But damn it, he starred in Holes, and it's a great movie. Watch it if you haven't. And if you've watched it, God knows how many times like I have, watch it again. In the next episode, we take on the Washington Capitals. We carry Madame Zeroni up that mountain and hopefully win the Stanley Cup within the next few episodes. And if not, we kick Brock Boeser off of the mountain along with Madame Zeroni. Yeah.